Hello there, Victor Pross speaking to you, Anarchist Artist. In today's video, the dangers of statism, what libertarians don't know, but should. This is part 1. In this video, I'm going to critique libertarianism, and but consider it a case of tough love, because I am a libertarian, or perhaps more accurately to say, an anarchist. Now, libertarians and anarchists are ever wont to declare that the state is a gang of violent thugs and nothing else. They go on and on with this. The state is a gang of violent thugs and nothing else. The state is a gang of violent thugs and nothing else. The state is a gang of violent thugs and nothing else. It's spoken loudly and often in all of its glorious simplification. But why should thinkers devote an entire discipline known as political science and political philosophy to the state and related matters if it's just a matter of it being violent thugs? How is the state, if it's just a gang of thugs, why is it worthy of such study and analysis? You know, I think we should be curious to know how this institution commands such widespread respect and compliance. And we don't get this kind of widespread respect and compliance from the mafia or the KKK. They're a gang of violent thugs. Are we not to distinguish any differences whatsoever between the mafia and the state? We're not going to do that? No? Seems kind of idiotic to me. And I think that I got a message from a person critiquing my my anarchist position. It's nothing unusual, of course, but this one particular message to me from a detractor, I guess you could say, was very revealing, and it kind of caters to my thesis of this video. So let me quote this person. Victor, minarchists accept that government is coercive. Minarchism, by the way, just in case you don't know, I'm not sure, is an advocate of small government. Okay, so anyway, minarchists accept that government is coercive, yet think that some coercion is justified in order to prevent the collapse of civilization. So to prevent something from far worse from happening, you would use coercion. Therefore, to prevent civilization from collapsing, coercion is justified. Minarchists believe that anarchy would collapse civilization, so they believe some coercion is justified. Unquote. So as you can see, there's nothing unique about this position. You know, it's the bloody predominant position of most people, whatever their political stripe is. Everybody knows already that the state is a violent, coercive institution. You're not, dear anarchists and libertarians, you're not conveying anything new. Everybody knows this. It's not fucking rocket science. But this person is placing a greater value on something, even if it involves the inherent coercion of the state. Now consider, listen to this person. It's very instructive. Minarchists accept that government is coercive, yet think that some coercion is justified in order to prevent the collapse of civilization. So for this person to prevent something far worse from happening, coercion is not only optional, it's ethically mandatory to this person. So if we are going to make the case against the state, or to speak more positively, establish a case for liberty, oh my God, dear fellow anarchists and libertarians, we must understand, we've got to understand, that the state is a normative institution. The state is a normative institution. We cannot dispense with this moral aspect of the state if, that is, we wish to distinguish the difference of the state from an association of common criminals. So, in philosophy, normative statements make the claim about how things should or ought to be, which things are good or bad, which actions are right or wrong. Normative claims are usually contrasted with so-called positive or descriptive or explanatory claims. when describing types of theories, beliefs, or propositions. Positive statements or descriptive statements are purportedly factual statements that attempt to describe reality or some aspect within. So, for example, let's take a normative claim. Here's one, for example. Children should eat vegetables. Children should eat vegetables. And those who would sacrifice liberty for security deserve neither. These are our normative claims. And then on the other hand, let's take a positive claim. Vegetables contain a relatively high proportion of vitamins. And a common consequence of sacrificing liberty for security is the loss of both. These are positive claims. Now, political science and political philosophy, that's what we're dealing with here. And that the prescriptive aspect seen in political philosophy is commonly said to constitute the essential difference between political philosophy and political science. The latter, we are told, political science, is purely descriptive in character, and that it's value-free, you see, value-free. So when dealing with beliefs about political legitimacy, political scientists do not impose their own value judgments on their subject matter. See, they do not attempt to determine whether such beliefs are right or wrong, or justified or unjustified. No, they confine themselves to describing those beliefs impartially, you see, because they're political scientists. They're all impartial. But, I doubt that political science always lives up to this rigorous demand of a value-free standard. I mean, after all, when a political scientist classifies some regimes as authoritarian, it's difficult to believe that a negative value judgment is not being imposed or imported into the analysis. So I'm not really buying it. But suffice to say that normative standards and the field of ethical philosophy is very much a part of politics, and this is what libertarians and anarchists are not really getting their heads around. I'm not making the case that ethical philosophy should be a part of politics. I'm telling you that normative ethical subject matter is a part of politics. Political philosophy is the study of such topics dealing with liberty, justice, property rights, law, and the enforcement of a legal code by authority. So political philosophy, it asks the basic questions. It asks questions such as, what, if anything, makes a government legitimate? What rights and freedoms it should protect and why? What form it should take and why? What the law is? What duties citizens owe to a legitimate government, if any, and when a government may be legitimately overthrown, if ever. So the detachment of politics from ethics, the attempt to make politics value-free, as we find in Austrian economics, is doomed to failure. Okay, for those libertarians and anarchists who are outspoken, who are crusading for liberty, who are intellectual activists, if they just go on and on and on about the inherent coercion of the violence of the state while bypassing the normative aspect of the state, completely bypassing it, or placing it as a secondary consideration, you're wasting your fucking time. You're wasting your fucking time. Okay? Why is this? Why is this? Libertarian philosophers usually think that ethics has no foundation in fact. That's the problem. That the realm of values is forever separated from the realm of facts. Ethics, they declare, is concerned with what ought to be the case, while science is concerned, you see, with what is the case. So it's said that normative recommendations of ethics cannot logically be derived from the descriptive statements of science. So consequently, we have two theories of ethics that have come from this. The one is emotivism, in which case ethical judgments are mere emotional expressions and therefore lack cognitive content. And subjectivism, that ethical judgments is nothing more than a report of one's personal subjective preference. You see, I like vanilla, you like chocolate, I abstain from murder, maybe you have a different view on that. Who am I to say, right? It's all subjective. So what a lot of libertarian thinkers have done, if purposely or by default, they have elevated the so-called is-ought dichotomy to the status of a modern dogma. So this downplaying of ethical philosophy as it relates to the individual, to society, to politics, this attempt to bypass the normative nature of the state will merely permit the state to go on and 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 on. The libertarian aversion to ground political principles and ethical philosophy will be our undoing. This concludes part 1 of my presentation of the dangers of statism, what libertarians don't know but should. Won't you join me for part 2 to continue this? Thank you very much. This is Victor Pross signing out. Anarchist Artist signing out for now. Pop Culture.